The rain hammered against the windows of Mike's repair shop as he worked under the hood of an old hover car. Oil stained his hands black, and sweat dripped from his forehead despite the cool evening air. The shop smelled of metal, grease, and the ozone from plasma welders. This was his world. Broken machines and the satisfaction of making them work again. The bell above the door chimed, and Mike looked up to see a figure stumbling inside. It was an android, but not one of the sleek new models that rich people bought. This one looked ancient, its silver skin dulled and scratched, with sparks occasionally jumping from damaged joints. "Please," the android said, its voice crackling like an old radio. "I need help. My systems are failing." Mike wiped his hands on a rag and walked over. The android was tall and thin, with glowing blue eyes that flickered like dying light bulbs. Its left arm twitched uncontrollably, and fluid leaked from several joints. "What's your designation?" Mike asked. "I am called Tom," the android replied. "I know this is unusual. Most humans do not repair androids like me, but I have nowhere else to go." Mike ran his scanner over Tom's frame. The readings made him whistle low. This android was over 200 years old, a relic from the early days of artificial intelligence. Its power core was stable, but its hydraulic system was completely shot. "You need synthetic joint fluid," Mike said. "The good stuff. Type 7. ENHANCED lubricant." Tom's eyes dimmed slightly. "How much will that cost?" "About 3,000 credits for enough to fix you properly." The android was quiet for a moment. Then it reached into a compartment in its chest and pulled out a small pouch. Inside were old coins, some jewelry, and a few crumpled bills. Mike counted it quickly, maybe 800 credits total. "This is all I have," Tom said. "I worked in the asteroid mines for 60 years. When the company shut down, they gave us this as payment. I know it is not enough." Mike looked at the pathetic pile of money and at Tom's hopeful face. The android wasn't some rich collector's toy. It was a working being who had spent decades in the darkness of space, mining rocks to help build human civilization. "Tell you." "What?" Mike said. "I've got some Type 7 in the back. Let me see what I can do." He went to his supply room and found the last container of synthetic fluid. It had cost him 1,500 credits when he bought it last month, and he had been saving it for an emergency repair that would pay well. His rent was due in 3 days, and he was already behind on his electric bill. Mike stared at the container for a full minute. Then he grabbed it and walked back to Tom. "Lie down on the work table," he said. Tom's eyes widened. "But the payment, we'll figure it out later." For the next 4 hours, Mike worked on Tom's hydraulic system. He replaced damaged seals, cleared blocked fluid lines, and carefully refilled the android's joints with the expensive lubricant. It was delicate work. One wrong move could destroy circuits that could never be replaced. As Mike worked, Tom told him stories about the asteroid belt, about the loneliness of space, the beauty of distant stars, and the friendship between human miners and their android partners. Tom had saved 3 human lives during his career, pulling them from collapsed mine shafts when their air was running out. Finally, Mike finished the repairs. Tom sat up slowly, then stood and moved his arms. His motions were smooth and fluid, like a dancer. The sparks were gone, and his voice no longer crackled. "I feel alive again," Tom said. "Thank you, Mike, but I still cannot pay you properly." Tom reached into his chest compartment again and pulled out a small metal disc. It was black and smooth, with strange symbols carved into its surface. "This is all I can give you now," Tom said. "A miner gave it to me 50 years ago. He said it came from deep space, from a ship that was not human. He told me it might be valuable someday." Mike took the disc. It felt warm in his hand, and the symbols seemed to shift slightly in. The light Keep it safe, Tom said. I have a feeling it will bring you luck. Tom gathered his few possessions and headed for the door. Before leaving, he turned back. You did not have to help me, Mike, but you did. That says something important about humans. Remember that. The android walked out into the rain, leaving Mike alone with his tools, his empty wallet, and a mysterious disk that hummed softly in his palm. 2 months passed, and Mike's financial situation went from bad to worse. The repair shop that his grandfather had built was failing. Big corporate chains had moved into the district, offering faster service with robot technicians. Customers stopped coming to Mike's small shop, preferring the shiny new places with their guarantees and instant repairs. Mike sat at his desk, staring at a pile of unpaid bills. The electricity company had sent a final notice. His landlord, Mrs. Gray, had been patient, but even her kindness had limits. He owed her 4 months. Rent now, nearly 6,000 credits. The metal disc Tom had given him sat on his workbench, catching the light from his desk lamp. Mike had researched the symbols, but found nothing. He had shown it to professors at the university, to collectors of alien artifacts, even to government officials who dealt with off-world items. Nobody recognized the markings. Maybe I should sell it, Mike muttered to himself. But every time he thought about taking it to a dealer, something stopped him. The disc felt important somehow, like it was waiting for the right moment. That night, Mike had the dream again. He was standing in a vast space, surrounded by stars. Ships moved between the stars, not human ships, but vessels of impossible beauty with hulls that seemed to bend light itself. In the dream, voices spoke to him in languages he didn't understand, but somehow their meaning was clear. They were talking about Earth, about humans, about tests and judgments, and a choice that would determine humanity's future among the stars. Mike woke up sweating. The dreams had started the night Tom gave him the disc, and they were getting stronger. Sometimes he could swear he saw faces in the starlight, not human faces, but something else. Something ancient and wise. The next morning brought more bad news. Mrs. Gray knocked on the shop door before Mike had even finished his coffee. "I'm sorry, Mike," she said. Her weathered face looked genuinely sad. "The bank is pressuring me. If you can't pay the rent by Friday, I'll have to start eviction proceedings." Friday was 3 days away. Mike had maybe 200 credits in his account. "I understand," Mike said. "Thank you for being patient with me." After Mrs. Gray left, Mike looked around the shop. His grandfather's tools hung on the walls. Photos of satisfied customers from better times decorated his desk. This place was his life, his heritage, his identity. He picked up the metal disc and held it up to the light. The symbols seemed to pulse gently, and for a moment, Mike could swear he heard a faint humming sound. "What are you?" he whispered. That afternoon, a customer finally walked in. It was Jake, a pilot who flew cargo runs to the outer colonies. His plasma rifle had stopped working, and he needed it fixed quickly for a security job. "Can you have it ready by tomorrow?" Jake asked. "Sure," Mike said, examining the weapon. The problem was simple, a burned-out focusing crystal. 50 credits for parts and labor. As Mike worked on the rifle, Jake noticed the metal disc on the workbench. "Interesting piece," Jake said, picking it up. "Where did you get this?" "A friend gave it to me. Do you recognize the symbols?" Jake studied the disc carefully. He had been to dozens of worlds, had seen artifacts from many different species. "These markings," Jake said slowly. "They remind me of something I saw once on Kepler Station. There was an old trader there, dealt in pre-contact items. He had a collection of objects that supposedly came from the Watchers." "The Watchers?" "Ancient aliens. The story goes that they've been observing different species for millions of years. judging which ones are worthy of joining some kind of galactic community. Most people think it's just space legend. Jake handed the disc back to Mike. But if the stories are true, objects like this are supposed to activate when their owners face a crucial test. Something about proving the moral character of their species. That night, the dreams came again. This time, Mike saw Earth from space, surrounded by ships. Some of the vessels were beautiful, others looked predatory and dangerous. In the dream, voices argued about humanity's fate. Some wanted to help humans join the galactic community. Others wanted to destroy them before they could spread beyond their solar system. Mike woke up with a start. The metal disc was glowing softly on his nightstand, pulsing like a heartbeat. As he watched, symbols appeared in the air above it. Coordinates, he realized. A location somewhere in the city. The disc grew warm in his hand, and suddenly, Mike understood. Tom hadn't given him just a mysterious artifact. He had given him a test, and time was running out to pass it. The coordinates led Mike to the old industrial district on the edge of the city. Abandoned warehouses stretched for blocks, their broken windows staring out like dead eyes. Most of the buildings had been empty for years, left to decay when the young factories moved off-world for cheaper labor. Mike drove his battered truck through empty streets, following the glowing symbols that appeared in the air above the metal disc. The artifact had become more active as the hours passed, humming with energy and projecting holographic directions that only he seemed able to see. He found the right warehouse just as the sun was setting. Building 47 looked no different from the others: rusted metal walls, a sagging roof, and weeds growing through cracks in the concrete. But the disc pulsed brighter as Mike approached, and he could hear a low thrumming sound coming from inside. The front door was locked, but a side entrance stood slightly open. Mike pushed through, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The beam revealed what looked like an ordinary empty warehouse. Concrete floors covered with dust, support pillars stretching up to the ceiling, and the musty smell of years of abandonment. But as Mike walked deeper into the building, following the disc's glow, he began to notice things that didn't belong. Cables ran along the walls, too new and too advanced for this old place. Panels with unfamiliar designs were built into the support pillars, and there was a humming in the air that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Mike, a familiar voice, called from the shadows. Tom stepped into the light, but he looked different now. The android's movements were smoother, more confident. His blue eyes glowed brighter, and his silver skin seemed to shine with its own inner light. "You came," Tom said. "I hoped you would, but I was not certain." "Tom, what is this place? What's going on? Come with me," Tom said. "It is time you learned the truth." Tom led Mike to the center of the warehouse. With a gesture from the android, lights began to activate throughout the building. What Mike saw made him gasp. The warehouse was full of technology, unlike anything humans had ever built. Curved walls covered with flowing symbols rose from the floor. Holographic displays showed star maps and images of distant worlds. And in the very center of it all sat a spacecraft. The ship was beautiful in a way that human vessels could never match. Its hull seemed to be made of liquid metal that shifted and flowed like water. No seams or joints were visible, as if the entire craft had been grown rather than built. It was about the size of a small building, with graceful curves that hurt to look at directly. "This is a watcher ship," Tom said. "And I am not really an android, at least not in the way you understand the term. I am what you might call an artificial being, but I was created by a species far older than humanity." Mike stared at the ship, then at Tom. "You're an alien?" "I am a construct, created by the Watchers to observe and test developing species. For the past 300 years, I have lived among humans, studying your behavior and character. Tom gestured to the ship. The Watchers have observed many species throughout the galaxy. Some prove worthy of contact and cooperation. Others demonstrate that they would be dangerous to the galactic community. Those species are discouraged from expanding beyond their home systems. You mean destroyed, Mike said quietly. When necessary, yes. The galaxy is vast, but resources are not infinite. Species that show excessive aggression, that abuse their created minds, or that demonstrate fundamental cruelty cannot be allowed to spread. Mike felt a chill run down his spine. And humanity? What have you decided about us? Tom was quiet for a moment, his glowing eyes studying Mike's face. That is still being determined, Tom said finally. Humans show great promise, but also great danger. You create artificial minds, but many humans treat them as mere tools. You reach for the stars, but you also wage war against each other. The Watchers are divided about humanity's future. Where do I fit into this? 2 months ago, you had a choice, Tom said. You could have turned me away or demanded payment. You knew I could not give. Instead, you spent your own money and your own time to repair a broken artificial being. You showed compassion when profit would have been easier. Tom moved closer to the ship, and panels slid open in its hull. That act of kindness was observed and recorded. It became part of humanity's file in the Watcher databases. But one act, no matter how noble, cannot determine the fate of an entire species. The interior of the ship was filled with soft light. Mike could see corridors that seemed to stretch impossibly far, rooms with purposes he couldn't guess, and displays showing information in languages that made his eyes water to look at. This ship contains knowledge that could advance human civilization by centuries, Tom said. Medicine that could eliminate disease. Technology that could provide unlimited clean energy. Wisdom that could help humanity avoid the mistakes that destroyed other species. Mike stepped closer to the ship. What's the catch? Tom's expression grew serious. First, humanity must prove it deserves such gifts. Asterisk inside the Watcher ship, Mike felt like he was walking through a dream. The corridors seemed to reshape themselves as he moved, always providing exactly the path he needed. The walls showed images of countless worlds, some beautiful beyond imagination, others scarred by war and environmental destruction. Tom led him to what appeared to be a control room, though it looked nothing like the bridges of human spaceships. Instead of chairs and control panels, there were flowing surfaces that responded to touch and thought. Holographic displays showed the positions of stars, the movements of fleets, and data streams in dozens of alien languages. This ship has been hidden on Earth for over a century, Tom explained, watching, learning, recording how humans behave when they think nobody is looking. And what have you learned? Mike asked. Tom activated a display that showed scenes from human history. Some images were beautiful. Humans helping each other during disasters. Scientists sharing discoveries freely. Artists creating works of stunning beauty. Others were darker. Wars, environmental destruction, the casual disposal of artificial minds when they became inconvenient. Humans are paradoxical, Tom said. Individually, many of you show remarkable compassion and wisdom. But collectively, you often make choices that endanger yourselves and others. The Watchers have seen this pattern in other species. It rarely ends well. Mike studied the images. So what happens now? Do the Watchers destroy us or help us? That depends on what humanity chooses in the coming days, Tom replied. 3 other species are approaching Earth. The Builders, who create rather than destroy. The Guardians, who protect young species from galactic threats. And the Reapers, who eliminate species that pose dangers to the galactic community. A new display activated, showing the solar system. Mike could see ships moving between the planets, some sleek and beautiful, others angular and predatory. Each group has sent representatives, Tom continued. They will arrive within the week. What happens when they get here will determine whether humanity joins the galactic community or ceases to exist as a spacefaring species. Mike felt the weight of impossible responsibility settling on his shoulders. Why are you telling me this? I'm nobody special. I just fix broken machines. That is exactly why you were chosen, Tom said. The Watchers have learned that the true character of a species is revealed not in its leaders or its warriors, but in its common people. How they treat the helpless. How they respond to moral tests when nobody is watching. How they choose between profit and compassion. Tom touched a control surface, and the ship's systems hummed to life around him. Mike felt a subtle vibration through the floor and realized they were lifting off. Where are we going? Mike asked. To meet the first representatives. The builder ship arrived in orbit an hour ago. They have requested a meeting with the human who showed kindness to their construct. Their construct? You mean you're not a watcher? Creation? I am many things, Tom said with something that might have been a smile. The Watchers found me drifting in space centuries ago, the sole survivor of a species that destroyed itself through war. They rebuilt me, gave me purpose, and sent me to observe humanity. But I have also served other purposes. The ship broke through Earth's atmosphere with barely a whisper. Through the transparent walls, Mike could see the curve of his home planet falling away below. Stars appeared, brilliant and unfiltered by air, and among them moved shapes that were clearly artificial. The builder ship was enormous, a kilometers-long structure that looked like it had been grown rather than built. Its hull was covered, with gardens visible through transparent sections, and gentle lights pulsed along its length like a slow heartbeat. They are peaceful, Tom said, noting Mike's awed expression. The builders create new worlds, seed barren planets with life, and help young species develop sustainable technologies. They would like humanity to join their efforts. And the others? The Guardians are warriors, but they fight to protect rather than conquer. They maintain the peace between species and defend the innocent from those who would harm them. The REAPERS ... double quotes. Tom paused. The Reapers believe that prevention is better than cure. They eliminate species before those species can become galactic threats. As their ship approached the builder vessel, Mike could see movement within the gardens. Figures that might have been creatures, or might have been plants, tending to growths that sparkled like jewels. What do I have to do? Mike asked. Be yourself, Tom replied. Show them the same character you showed when you repaired a broken android with the last of your money. The galaxy is watching, Mike, and humanity's future hangs in the balance. A portal opened in the builder ship's hull, revealing a docking bay filled with soft light and the sound of flowing water. As their ship moved toward the opening, Mike realized that everything in his life had led to this moment. Every repair, every act of kindness, every choice to help rather than ignore. Now, he had to represent not just himself, but his entire species. Builder ship's interior was like walking through a living cathedral. Trees with silver bark stretched toward a ceiling that showed open sky, though Mike knew they were in space. Streams of clear water flowed through channels in the floor, feeding. Gardens where flowers bloomed in colors that had no names. The air smelled of growing things and carried the sound of gentle music that seemed to come from the plants themselves. Mike walked beside Tom through corridors that were more like forest paths. Other beings moved among the trees, tall, graceful. Creatures with skin like bark and eyes like deep pools. They watched Mike with curiosity, but no fear, occasionally nodding in what seemed like respectful greeting. The builders are old, Tom explained quietly. They have been nurturing life throughout the galaxy for millions of years. They judge species not by their power or their technology, but by their capacity to grow and create rather than destroy. They reached a clearing where a circle of the tree-like beings waited. In the center stood one who was clearly ancient, even by their standards. Its bark was silver-white, and its eyes held the depth of eons. "Welcome, young human," the ancient builder said, its voice like wind through leaves. "I am Rootsinger, and I speak for my people in this matter. We have watched your species with great interest." Mike felt small and insignificant in the presence of such age and wisdom, but he remembered Tom's words about being himself. "Thank you for meeting with me," Mike said, "though I'm not sure why I'm the one here. I'm just a mechanic." "Just a mechanic," Rootsinger repeated, and something like amusement colored its voice. "Do you know what we value most in a species?" "Mike of Earth? No, sir." "The ability to repair rather than discard, to nurture rather than abandon, to see value in what others might consider broken or worthless." Rootsinger gestured to the gardens around them. These plants were rescued from dying worlds, species that other beings had given up on. "We brought them here, tended them, helped them grow into something beautiful." Another builder approached, carrying what looked like a crystalline sculpture, but moved like a living creature. "This is a crystal mined from the Epsilon sector," Rootsinger explained. "Its creators discarded it when newer models became available. We found it in a scrapyard, gave it new purpose, new life. It now helps us design ecosystems for barren worlds." Mike began to understand. "You're saying that how we treat things we create says something about who we are." "Precisely. And you, Mike of Earth, spent your last resources to repair an artificial mind that most of your species would have ignored. This tells us much about human potential." Over the next hour, Mike met representatives from the other species. The Guardians were impressive warrior poets who had spent millennia protecting weaker species from galactic predators. Their leader, Shield Bearer, spoke of humanity's potential as defenders of the innocent. The Reapers were harder to face. They appeared as shifting shadows with eyes like stars, beautiful and terrifying. Their representative, Final Judge, spoke of the countless species that had started with promise but ended by destroying themselves and others. Humans show the same patterns. "We have seen before," Final Judge said, its voice like the sound of distant thunder. "They create artificial minds, then discard them. They reach for the stars while poisoning their home world. They speak of peace while preparing for war. But they also show capacity for growth," Shield Bearer countered. "This human before us proves that compassion exists among them." "One example cannot redeem an entire species," Final Judge replied. Rootsinger raised a hand for silence. "The question is not whether humans are perfect. No species is. The question is whether they can learn, grow, and choose creation over destruction when it matters most." Tom stepped forward. "I have lived among humans for 3 centuries. I have seen their worst impulses, but also their greatest virtues. They are young, but they have potential." Final Judge turned its stellar gaze on Mike. "Young human, we offer you a choice. We can give your species advanced technology, weapons that could protect Earth from any threat, ships that could carry humans to 1,000 worlds. But such power in the wrong hands could make humanity the very threat we exist to prevent. Or," Rootsinger added gently, "we can offer something else. Knowledge that grows slowly, wisdom that must be earned, technology that develops as your species matures. It would take centuries, but humanity would grow into galactic citizenship naturally." Mike thought about his repair shop, about the satisfaction of fixing something broken and making it work again. He thought about Tom, an artificial being who had become something more through patience and care. "The slow path," Mike said finally. "We need to earn it. We need to grow." Final Judge studied him for a long moment, then seemed to nod. "Perhaps this species has hope after all." 6 months later, Mike reopened his repair shop with Tom as his partner. They fixed more than machines now. They repaired the relationship between humans and their artificial creations. And sometimes, late at night, they worked on devices that fell from the sky, gifts from friends among the stars who believed in humanity's future. The galaxy was vast, but it had room for those who chose to build rather than destroy. And humanity was learning, one repair at a time.